Welcome everyone to the Indian Express newspaper of 18th October 2022. I will explain this newspaper in three steps. First is why is the news, second is what is the news, and third is what can be the future prospects of the news. So let's get started with the first news, which is Center cleared release of Bilkis case convicts, and others like CBI and court have opposed the decision of Gujarat government. First of all, why is this news? Because of the case. So case is Bilkis Banu case, which occurred in Gujarat 2002 riots. So now Gujarat government have told Supreme Court on Monday that it decides to release the 11 convicts in the Bilkis Banu case. And why they have been released? Because there is a rule that if a person has completed 14 years of his lifetime imprisonment, then he can be released based on his behavior. So he has completed 14 years. In fact, he has completed more than 14, 15 years and something. So now their behavior was found to be good, and that is why Gujarat government has released these convicts. Now what is the others' reaction? SP, CBI, SCB of Mumbai have quoted that this offence by the person was heinous. So that is why no leniency may be given. Also, a special civil judge of CBI, City Civil and Sessions Court, Greater Bombay have called out that crime on victim from particular religion, minor children not spared. And this crime was the worst form of crime against humanity because there was rape plus murder. In fact, even children were not left. What can we expect in the future? So we know that the offense committed was heinous, grave, and also very serious. So now there will be a clash between government and Supreme Court. This is to be sure. At least we can expect a clash of words. Now next news is from Supreme Court that Justice Dhananjay Yeshwant have been appointed next Chief Justice of India, and he is going to be the next CJI in exercise of the powers conferred by clause 2nd of the Article 124 of the Constitution. So according to second clause of Article 124, the President is pleased to appoint Justice Dhananjay Yeshwant as a judge of Supreme Court to be the next CJI with effect from 9th November 2022. So we know after consulting with all the judges of Supreme Court, this decision has been taken by the President of our country. So this is just a declaration. Now coming to next page, this is the city page, more of city page. Coming to government and politics page, you see here the news is regarding politics, political parties, which is not of our concern because it is not going to be asked in exam. Coming next is, this is also some kind of political rally, but here some leading schemes were launched. So you see, Prime Minister have launched single brand Bharat urea fertilizer. First of all, why is this news? This news is because India imports fertilizer and that costs a lot. So now India is trying to make these fertilizers India made, which means India will make its own fertilizer. So he launched a scheme to brand all subsidized fertilizers under one brand. So we also know that these fertilizers are given subsidies. The farmers that use these fertilizers are given enormous subsidies, else they will not have costed this much cheap, because fertilizers are costly. They cost at least 70 to 80 rupees, but the farmers are given these fertilizers in 5 to 6 rupees per kg. So he launched a scheme to brand all subsidized fertilizers under one brand, which is Bharat. And why exactly? Because they want to eliminate product differentiation and confusion caused to farmers by multiple brands. So there are multiple brands on which government give subsidies. This creates a lot of confusion, and also this creates a kind of superiority and inferiority in some fertilizers, that this is good, this is not good. So now, to remove all this confusion, all this differentiation, government has launched this scheme. Today the things on which we spend the most for imports are: first, edible oil. You know, a lot of palm oil, sunflower oil comes from outside. Indonesia, Malaysia, the major exporter of palm oil to India. Then comes fertilizer. A lot comes from Russia. Second and third is crude oil. You know, India imports at least 85% of its crude oil from outside. Since the Russia-Ukraine war, Russia has become major exporter of crude oil to India. He's talking next that every year we spend lakhs of crores of rupees to import these items. So how this money will be saved? So a lot of money is invested in imports. How can this be saved? The Prime Minister believes cars should run on ethanol produced from farm produce. So ethanol is made from sugar, which comes from sugar cane, also rice and other farm produce are used to make ethanol. Then bio CNG should be made from waste, and biogas produced from cow dung, work that is going on in the country. This is how self-sufficiency will be achieved on the edible oil front. And how? Government has started a mission oil palm. So farmers will be given incentive to produce, to grow palm trees in their plantation, in their farm, in their farmland. So in order to achieve this self-sufficiency in the edible oil, this is how this will be achieved. So what can we expect in the future? More self-reliant oil, more self-reliant fuel and fertilizer. Coming to next page, you see there's a report coming from Global Multidimensional Poverty Index 2022. So there's some good news from this report. You see 415 million Indians have rose from poverty between 2005-06 to 2019-21. So around 415 millions in the India climbed out of poverty between these years. And what is the poverty? So it has come down from 55% to just 16% over this period, according to Global Multidimensional Poverty Index 2022. So if you are going on for an exam, then you can write it down as a data that around 415 million climbed out of poverty, and poverty has come from 55% to just 16%. So this thing was important in this news. Coming to our next page, which is important, Pakistan likely to exit Financial Action Task Force grey list. First of all, why is this news? Since 2018, Pakistan have been in the list of Financial Action Task Force. And what is the color? It is in the grey list, which means it faces difficulty taking loan, doing international business, and all of the financial actions. Now, Pakistan was included in the increased monitoring list in June 2018. And why exactly Pakistan was kept in the grey list? Because because of its, you can call, carelessness. There were deficiencies found in its legal, financial, regulatory, investigation, in fact prosecution, judicial, and non-government sector. All of these were not able to fight money laundering and combat terror financing. So they were irresponsible and failure in controlling money laundering, in combating terror financing, which are considered a serious threat to the global financial system. We know terror financing is a serious threat because it leads to catastrophe in the global economy. Plus, the catastrophe caused to innocent people, if it is kept aside, then financial system itself get a lot of harm. Civilians get harmed, that is another point. So now Pakistan is likely to exit the grey list because it has consulted all its allies. In fact, it has consulted India too, plus Sri Lanka, China. These countries are backing Pakistan, Afghanistan too. What happens if Pakistan comes out of this grey list? What can we expect? It can get financial aid from IMF, which it needs a lot right now because floodings have occurred in Pakistan, so a lot of economy has been come into the dip. So it needs assistance from world, and that too from International Monetary Fund, World Bank, Asian Development Bank. Also, European Union can also come forward to help it. So that can reduce its problem of economic dip. Now coming to our next page, we see economy page. I already told you in previous newspapers that since 3 quarters, inflation has been above 6%, which is the upper threshold of inflation, according to a deal signed between Ministry of Finance and Monetary Policy Committee of RBI. So now why inflation has hit 7.4% in September? This was asked. Do you think Monetary Policy Committee has failed to check the retail inflation in the country? In its response, there are 3 reasons that have caused this problem. First of all, Monetary Policy Committee consciously prioritized economic recovery over inflation during the pandemic. So economy have dipped a lot during this COVID time. So that is why in order to recover from this economy, Monetary Policy Committee have increased its rate 4 times, 190 basis points, first 40 basis point, then again 50 basis point, again it increased 50 basis point. This has a lot of impact on inflation. So prioritizing economic recovery over inflation was the first reason. And second is we persisted in this longer than we should have, which means that RBI have increased rates longer, which means it has increased rate 4 times. Normalization could have begun in mid 2021 when the pandemic have mutated into a health tragedy instead of an economic tragedy. So you see, what is he talking about? He's actually talking about second wave of the country. First wave came of COVID. India returned back. Then came second wave that has caused a lot of economic tragedy, in fact health tragedy too. Lack of oxygen, lack of beds, lack of medicines, plus vaccine diplomacy, a lot was at stake. You may have seen this all in news. So this is when pandemic have mutated into health tragedy. And India was suffering from a double mutant, which means a more infectious virus. So it converted into a health tragedy instead of economic tragedy. Third is supply disruptions from Ukraine war. So Ukraine supplies what? Ukraine supplies food like wheat. Russia supplies oil. Though we have been successful in getting oil from Russia at a discounted price. But this has created overall disruption in supply chain. So it created an unexpected inflationary shock that hit us before the Monetary Policy Committee had normalized the monetary policy. So three things have its impact. First is careless increasing of rate. Second is the second wave of COVID. And third is Ukraine-Russia war. What can we expect in the future? A meeting. So there is, in fact, I guess there is a meeting between Ministry of Finance and this Monetary Policy Committee in which they have to explain why exactly they failed to curb the inflation below 6%. So this was it for today's newspaper. Now you can read this newspaper by yourself as well.